Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchison. I am the Chair of the Committee of Adjustments. Item number one, we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 2 p.m. This is the October the 2nd, 2024 Committee of Adjustments meeting, and we do have quorum as indicated by the members in attendance, and we do have Member Townsend virtual. For this meeting, we're using both audio and video. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Westgrade website at www.westgrade.com. Technology for this meeting is being managed by the Westgrade staff. Please refrain from clicking buttons for those virtual unless prompted. And before we before we continue, I'm asking Communications Coordinator, Ms. Noble, to provide an overview on some of the other key points. Ms. Noble.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Hutchison, before I begin at any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the ID for this meeting, which is 891-5626-2480. Both member council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands physically to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance, please send a chat message to myself, Ashley Noble, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is taking place across two meeting platforms, both on Zoom as well as being live streamed on YouTube. Public participation, if any, must be done through Zoom. It cannot be done through YouTube at this time.
Thank you. Item number two on today's agenda is the purpose of the meeting. We'll ask Planner Smith to please provide your comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Purpose of today's Committee of Adjustment meeting is to present the following applications. Application number A07-2024, a minor variance for 234-250 Concession 2 WGR for Cinemaniac. Application Consent B21-2024 and Consent B22-2024 for 142239 Gray Road 9, Martin Brubaker. Application number A08-2024, a minor variance, together with a related application for Consent B24-2024 and Consent B2025-2024 for 725 Queen Street for Walsh. The last applications are A09-2024, a minor variance, and related Consent B23-2024 for 524-267 Concession 12 for Gillen. The public meetings will allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or to offer comments regarding an application. Notice of the public meetings were posted on the subject properties and circulated via mail to those persons within 60 meters of the properties and to prescribed agencies as required by the Planning Act. A public registry is available here in the council chambers for those attending a public meeting in person who wish to make comments or ask questions regarding the applications. As noted by our Communications Coordinator, Ashley Noble, participation in a public meeting can also be done online. Recent changes to the Planning Act were assessment to only prescribed persons and agencies. Neighboring property owners no longer have the right to appeal any decision of the Committee of Adjustment. If you wish to receive notice of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment on any application presented today, please provide your name and mailing address to the municipality of Westgrade in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. Item number three is the disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Committee members, do you have anything to declare or disclose at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to item number four. That's approval of the minutes. 4.1 is the minutes from the Committee of Adjustment hearing held September 3rd, 2024. And the recommendation would be that the Committee of Adjustments hereby approves the minutes from that meeting. I'm looking for a mover, please. Member Eccles, will you move that, sir?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Forrester. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. See all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. Moving along, we are on to our first application this afternoon, application number A07-2024, 234-250, Concession 2, WGR. And we're going to go to 5.1, and that's report from the planning staff. Planner Smith, if you please read your report on A07-2024 including any written or verbal comments that we've received up to the start of the meeting. Planner Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I ask you to bring up the PDF for the file, please. We go to page 25, sorry, 30 of 93 in the PDF. Thank you. The application for A07, sorry, excuse me, for A07 2024 is the proposed 232,382 square foot addition, which includes a two-car garage to an existing dwelling on a 0.4 hectare or 0.98 acre lot. The application is requesting a reduction in the front yard setback for the addition to the property. On the screen, you can see the addition in red, with the black being the current existing property building on the property. The red lot line shows the setback proposed, the front yard setback proposed, and the dotted lines show the existing concession road traveled portion for the roadway itself. Between the red line and the first dotted line is the set of a tree line included in your packages is pictures from a street view along that portion of the concession road, and the Hydro One corridor through there for local hydro transmission is also located right along that property line. Thank you. The application was submitted for comments to the various agencies we work with, West Gray Public Works, West Gray Building, and at Hydro One. We have no concerns from the West Gray departments, and we received no comments from Hydro One at this time of the writing of the report, and we've received none since that time. We've received no public comments submitted to either in writing or verbal in regards to the application. We reviewed the application for the reduction in the front yard setback against the provincial policy statement. Basically, the provincial policy statement is silent on expansions such as this overall, so there's really no policy to review in that regard. We also have to take a look at what are called the four minor variance tests that are embedded in the Ontario Planning Act. Those four tests are, first of all, does the minor variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? In this particular case, the property is designated agriculture in the County of Gray official plan. That official plan does permit residential dwelling units, such as the one existing on the property. It's silent on expansions of this kind of nature. So overall, there are no issues with the county official plan in regards to the reduction in the front yard setback. The second test, does the minor variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? This lot is zoned A1 agriculture. The A1 zone permits a detached dwelling as existing today. As the lot is under 2 hectares in size, we do apply a reduced lot regulations to the property. This requires buildings to be located no closer than 60 feet to the front property line. This proposal would see the addition within that required front yard. A 60-foot front yard requirement for dwelling on lots smaller than 2 hectares is very similar to that required on farm lots, which is 66. It's actually quite large. Considering that we have smaller lots. It is possible that this setback that we have in the bylaw is a long-term legacy carryover, where we saw from our farm parcels, the 66 basically carry forward to smaller lots in the same consideration. Mainly probably for sending back barns, and in that particular case further back, and 66 feet go back decades, as you can imagine, go back almost to the same width as the roadway itself. So it's basically a legacy issue as opposed to a somewhat of a true planning issue in terms of having enough room in a front yard, and especially in the rural and agricultural areas. So there has been some concerns raised over dust and things like that. If you get too close to our roadways, we get dust problems, and like anything else, we get traffic concerns with people speeding when we have our houses too close, but we do not have that particular concern on this particular property. The main interest here is maintaining, of course, enough room for the Hydro One. corridor. It is a standard single pole line configuration to this area. It's not anything larger than that. And of course, maintaining enough room within the concession road for so that West Gray Public Works can continue to do its work over the long term. And as I mentioned, Public Works don't have any particular concerns with the reduction in the front yard setback. There's still plenty of room between the setback and the property line, plus the distance from the property line to the roadway itself. As I mentioned, we don't see any particular issues with the Hydro One maintaining of the hydro corridor through this particular property. The third test is the minor variance desirable for the appropriate development or use of the lands and property. Overall, accessory buildings or extensions to residential dwellings is what we are expecting to be occurring in these particular properties for residential dwellings. So we don't see any issues with appropriate development in this particular case. The fourth test is a minor in nature. In this particular case, we look at impacts on the environment, the enjoyment or use of adjoining properties, including the use of agriculture on adjoining properties, and the functioning of government and other related operations on that. And there's more than sufficient distance for those kind of operations to go on. The expansion of the house will have limited to no impact at all on existing agricultural operations in the area, and there are no environmental concerns at all. In that regard, we recommend that the application A067 2024 for Semeniac Knowlton be approved in consideration of the conditions provided to the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you.
All right, excuse me. Thank you, Planner Smith. Item number 5.2 on the agenda is verbal comments. There's two parts to this. First one is we'll go to committee members to have any comments, questions, and that will be followed by the public. So under 5.2.1, committee comments. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Member Noon, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I noticed in the drawings or the view aerial or the street view indicates no drain, like no ditching there. So with the setbacks and stuff, there wouldn't be any problems with drainage and stuff if it was permitted to with those amended setbacks, like that drainage wouldn't be an issue.
No, I believe there's still enough room within the municipal road allowance to deal with ditching if required. We got no comments back to say that we have drainage problems with the roadway in this particular location or any other kind of flooding. The building itself will still be set back from the property line to allow a little bit of grading if required to keep water away from the buildings themselves if required in the future.
Member Eccles, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And a couple of questions, if I could. The first one, right in the first part, Mr. Smith, it says something about the minimum distance to sensitive users or receptors. Just for my curiosity, or if I'm playing Trivial Pursuit, what is that number? Is it the same as MDS?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
At the beginning, it says that there is no problem or no difference to minimum or sensitive areas or sensitive receptors. There is a couple of houses across the road. I just wonder, what's the distance to those sensitive receptors?
Right. So for considering this is an expansion to an existing building, there really isn't, as opposed to our industrial uses or to our gravel pits and so on and so forth, where there is actually a set of recommendations that could come from the province on that. Here, we're looking at the standard kind of setbacks like in town that we would have on a interior lot line setback or things like that. We have had some concerns in other applications that some of our buildings are getting too close to a property that is actively in agriculture, as in the side lot line. So if I want to run my corn right up to the property line and we allow a building to be built a meter back on the other side, how does that impact my ability to farm my corn? As an example.
Mhm.
Here on the front lot line, we don't have that relationship with an agricultural use, obviously. Our main concern would have been as presented with Hydro One and the West Gray use of the road as the neighbor. So.
Could another one follow up? In number 2 of the 4 pieces of, a minor variance, does it meet it? On the second page in that, second last paragraph, it says the accessory building would be under the maximum permitted size of 92.9 meters. But at the beginning, there's a bit of a variance because it says that the building is, if I'm not mistaken, 222 square meters. Yeah, under highlights, the proposed is,
There is a
Two
set
hundred.
of typos in the report that you have caught. That paragraph should not be written that way. It's not applicable. So you caught a paragraph that should not be there at all.
that
That is a drafting error on my part. Is what you're
so
reading.
so that accessory building would be under the maximum permitted size of 92.9.
So we're not actually talking about an accessory building here at all. The paragraph is not, should have been deleted in its entirety. We are talking about an expansion to an existing building, not an accessory building separate and distinct from that. So like I said, the paragraph here is totally in error. It
Okay.
should not have been there at all. So
Right.
what we have here is an existing house being enlarged. So it's not an accessory building, which is why the paragraph is in error.
So just one more then on that, does that mean that it's still under the 10% lot coverage?
Yes,
Okay, good. That's fine.
it's under the lot coverage for the zone. Yes.
Okay. That was where I was concerned. Okay, fine, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to 5.2.2. This is public comments. We do have some people virtually attending today. So Ms. Noble, could you just advise the public on how they can participate virtually? And also, if you could just let me know if you've received any anybody online who would like to speak to it before I turn it to the chamber here. So go ahead, please.
As noted at the opening of the meeting, public participation must be done through Zoom. Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways. If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This would let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to myself, Ashley Noble, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Do you have any? Oh, I do see a gentleman online with your virtual hand, so you can just state your name for the record and the floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just kind of switching between screens there. My name's Andrew Semenick. I'm the applicant for this minor variance. I just wanted to, I have a brief presentation I want to show just kind of with some of the thoughts and the intentions that we've had for this. Would I be able to share my screen here?
I'm going to refer to Ms. Noble for that because that technology is above my pay grade for sure. So to be honest, so Ms. Noble,
You should be able to.
Okay, yeah, just one. It says disabled share. That's the only thing. I'm happy to just speak to it as well, but I do have some images I think I do want to show.
well, if you'd like to start the presentation and then if we do find a solution
You
for
can try
enabling,
now.
you
Andrew.
have found a solution?
Okay, yeah.
Can you share now?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Alrighty. Keynote. Okay. And then I'm just gonna play. Let me know if you can see it here, guys.
We can't yet.
Okay. Should be going any minute. Might be a little slow. Okay. Okay, I think I'm having some issues here. Either way, I just want to thank the committee and then the planner for all the work that's gone into this application. I also wanted to introduce my wife. She's on here as well, Tristan Knowlton. We moved into this house back in 2021, and we're really happy to move across the road from Tristan's parents, who have been there for 25 years. The house is really special. Of course, it's been around and was built in 1873, so it's 151 years old. And we're really excited to, grow the building and expand it for our ever-growing family. Of course, we did a lot of planning and intent for this building. We've noted the path that the sun takes in the summer versus the winter, the winds, the layout of the property, the grading. Even we have a little part of the property on the south side we refer to as the meadow, and we really think that with all those kind of factors, that the proposed addition is really where it optimally would sit. And it keeps it tight and keeps the space efficient. And I wish I could share some more images, and there are some part of the package, but we're just really, again, thankful for all the effort that's gone into this. And we really hope that, this is a successful project for us and for the committee.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else virtually that, if you could raise your hand, or does nobody have anything else? No. Okay, seeing none, is there anybody in attendance today that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, that's going to close 5.2.2 as well as that part of it. We're going to go to 5.3, and that's the decision. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? And we do have the recommendation on the agenda. So, Member Hutchinson, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to recommend that we accept the planner's report on A072024 for the minor variance.
Okay, have that moved. Member Echols, would you like to second that, sir?
Well,
Thank you very much. Everyone's clear on the recommendation just before? Okay, comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all hands are in favor, or everyone, all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion has carried. So item number 5.4, Planner Smith, what are the next steps, sir?
The planning department will issue a notice of decision. The appeal period will establish from that notice of decision. Only prescribed agencies and persons are allowed to appeal a minor variance decision of the Committee of Adjustment. Once the appeal period is over, the applicants can come in and satisfy the conditions of the minor variance and move forward with their building permit application if that's what they so desire.
Thank you, Planner Smith. Okay, next item on to today's agenda is the number 6, application number B21 2024 and B22 2024 142239 Gray Road 9. Under 6.1 report from planning staff. Planner Smith, please reread your report on this application B2124, B2224, including any written or verbal comments you've received up to the start of today's meeting. Planner Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Can I ask you to go to page 43 of 96, please? The application before council this afternoon is for 2 severances. Severance of lot number 1, B21 2024, and for lot 2, B2224, is shown on the screen with a retained 100-acre parcel. Since the time of writing this report, we received additional comments from the County of Gray, from neighboring property owners, and at this time we would like to change the recommendation to council or the committee that the application be deferred and brought back to the Committee of Adjustment at the discretion of the Manager of Planning. For the information of the public, we will provide a notice regarding when or if the application is brought back to the Committee of Adjustment. So again, it'd be my recommendation this time that the application be fully deferred and brought back to the Committee of Adjustment at the discretion of the Manager of Planning. I will not be presenting the report. Thank you.
Okay, Planner Smith, appreciate that. I was not aware of that, sir, but you've requested a deferral from your end, so I'm going to actually, well, first off, I'm going to go to the committee members just so we stay with the agenda. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this referral? Deferral, sorry, I apologize. Okay, seeing none. I do see a member in attendance here today would like to speak to it under public comments. So I think in all fairness, with the agenda that we had posted, we should allow that. Before we do that, Ms. Noble, do you have anybody in attendance virtually that would like to speak to it so we can cover? Okay, so we have nobody virtually. Ma'am, if you could just take the table there, just state your name for the record. The recommendation is to defer it, but we'll certainly, you are here, we'll certainly hear you. So again, go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Through the chair, committee and staff. So my name is Christine Lofton. I'm working on behalf of the applicants who are here today. I am wondering if I can provide my presentation that I provided to the committee and present today. And I'd also like to confirm with staff if there's a deferral. We would like to get this on, next month's agenda and to have an idea on what the outcome of the deferral, like what are we waiting for? Is there something that I need to be working on in the next month? Because I'm a little unsure of that.
Okay, so how about we take your presentation and then when we're completed with that, I can go to Planner Smith to respond. Obviously to your question there, and then we could see where we land on that. But we will certainly hear your presentation now that you're here today. So
Okay,
the floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I did provide a PowerPoint. So thank you. My name is Christine Loft, and I'm a planning consultant, and I'm here today representing the applicants. With me today is Mervyn Martin, Elvin Brubaker, and Stuart Brubaker, who are the applicants on the file. We pre-consulted on this file on October 18th, 2023. And since that time, we have been working on the technical reports that were required and submitted to provide for a complete submission. The subject lands are municipally known as 142239 Gray Road 9. The subject lands consist of 3 original part township lots, lots 26, 27, and 28, concession 10. There are 2 previous lots that have been taken from the original lot 26 and 27, and those addresses are 172103, Side Road 25, and the larger lot along Gray Road 9, which does not actually have a civic address. The subject lands have a lot area of 109 hectares and a lot frontage of 586 meters onto Side Road 25 and 987 meters on the county road. The lands consist of agricultural lands, woodlands, and include an existing residence and outbuildings. The existing farm cluster is located on lot 26. The subject lands are surrounded by agricultural lands, rural lands, as well as woodlands. And I'll just note that tile drainage is underway on all 3 parcels, and that work is being completed under an existing Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority permit. Next slide, please. So the proposal is to create 2 non-farm parcels, 2 new farm parcels, and to retain a farm parcel. Severance 1 has a lot area of 39.6 hectares and a frontage of 389 meters. Lot 2 has a lot area of 29.5 hectares and a frontage of 198 meters. And the retained lot would be just over 40 hectares and a frontage of 400 meters on the county road. And I'll just note again that the severances do follow the original town lot fabric. With respect to the official plan and the zoning, the subject lands are designated agriculture as well as hazard within the county official plan. And the lands are zoned agricultural A1 and natural environment NE in the West Gray zoning bylaw. Next slide. We have submitted a implementing zoning bylaw, and that implementing zoning bylaw would recognize the reduced lot areas within Severance 1, which is the westerly lot, and then the middle lot. Next slide. So a number of technical reports were required and have been submitted, a planning justification report, as well as the draft amendment. Minimum distance separation was completed, an agricultural report, as well as a farm business plan. Next slide. So with regard to this, so we have also just obviously received the county comments, and so trying to digest what those are, which I know Director Smith, is sort of in the same boat as we are. However, I just want to point out that the County of Gray official plan, when we look for policy direction on severances, we do look to section 523 subsection 1. And this policy indicates, and was fully discussed at the pre-consultation meeting as well as a follow-up meeting with county staff, that one lot severed to create a farm parcel of generally 40 hectares in size, provided both severed and retained lots are 40 hectares in size and are both intended to be used for agricultural uses. And where a severed lot is proposed to create a farm lot smaller than 40 hectares, an official plan amendment will not be required, but an agricultural report is required by a qualified individual. And it was on this premise and this discussion at the pre-consultation meeting that we proceeded. Beacon Environmental was retained to prepare the agricultural report. And although you may not be aware of Beacon, they are a fairly large firm that I deal with on a regular basis. Beacon is actually one of the few companies that prepares agrology studies. And in fact, Beacon Environmental is a well-known firm that completes most peer reviews for municipalities that I know. I have several reports right now that are being peer reviewed by them within other municipalities. Specifically, Clearview uses them on a regular basis. So they are a leading firm in providing opinion on agrology studies. With respect to policy 523, subsection 1, both severed and retained lots will be utilized for agricultural purposes. The lands are currently being worked by the owners. A farm business plan was submitted by my office based on dollar amounts that were provided by the applicants related to their costs of this season. The business plan does include a high-level economic summary for what the applicants spent and expect to gross for this season and into the next year. The agricultural report was very thorough, provided a thorough overview of the area and provides opinion on the nearby farms as well as the farm capability and the local investment within the area. It provides an opinion that the new lots can sustain agricultural operations and provides an opinion on the lots being large enough to allow change, for example, change in products produced. And lastly, that report also covers off the MDS, which is included in both that report as well as the planning report. Next slide. Sorry, if you can go back one. So this is actually the MDS. The MDS mapping that is provided in the agrology report and again in my report, but it was prepared by Beacon. And so although there are definitely some arcs in the area, the subject lands severed 1 and severed 2 both would meet MDS. And next slide. So the lands are partially regulated by the Conservation Authority. And as I've indicated, the applicants do have a current permit for any works that have been completed or are underway on the property. At pre-consultation, it was identified that the entrance to severed lot 2, which is the middle lot, includes a regulated area at the front of the property. And so on the screen, you can see the green sort of highlight overlay. That's actually the regulated area. So the county had suggested at that meeting that we reach out to the Conservation Authority ahead of submitting the applications to ensure that an entrance was actually possible to that middle lot. And so my office submitted a request to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority to consult on the severances and to provide an opinion on whether a permit would be issued for an entrance at this location before you. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority did attend the site, and the Conservation Authority issued correspondence on March 14th, 2014, which provided that a site plan, and I'm quoting from the letter, a site plan was submitted as part of this proposal with the proposed severance, which is what you're looking at on the screen, and that the location of the proposed laneway Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority staff have confirmed that the proposed laneway location was outside of the hazard lands, but is still within the regulated area. And so a permit from the Conservation Authority will be required for any development associated with the laneway. Please note this letter is not permission for development. And so on this basis, we were of the opinion that the Conservation Authority would generally support the proposed location, albeit we need a permit. And this letter of March 14th, well, at the time, the Conservation Authority did copy 2 planners at the county. They did not copy the municipality, but I provided that letter as an appendix to my report. Next slide. And so I have already spoken about the agrology report, but this slide sort of summarizes the findings. The soil survey complex suggests that most of the property is contained within a polygon that consists of 80% class 1 and 20% class 2, and that it does qualify as prime agricultural lands. It identifies no specialty crops, of course. Land improvement was being undertaken through installation of tile drainage at the time that staff did or Beacon staff completed their site visits. And it went on to indicate that the site does have the ability to meet MDS. The location of the proposed lots within proximity to an existing settlement area, that the location of the proposed lots at the boundary of a designated rural and agricultural area, and minimal amount of capital investment, which are all key points within an agrology study. And the last slide. So it is our opinion that the 2 consents are in keeping with the Planning Act, that they are consistent with provincial policy, conform to the County of Grey official plan based on the section that I provided, and complies with the West Grey zoning bylaw, subject to the implementing zoning bylaw that we have applied for. We have had an opportunity to review the county comments. We did pre-consult with the county and the municipality. I had a follow-up meeting with county staff. Obviously, the decision to submit was not taken lightly. The applicants did have a conditional deal and allowed me to complete pre-consultation in order to have an understanding of what would be required and whether the county would entertain that policy within their official plan. So we did also submit to the Conservation Authority ahead of time, which was at the request or perhaps the suggestion by the county, which I think was that I agreed with. We retained a well-known company to complete the agricultural report. We provided a farm business plan, and the county had commented, you'll read in their comments about the farm business plan and some further comments on that specifically. These landowners are young landowners. These will be their first farms. And so like many other farm operators within the municipality and the county, they have and will likely continue to have jobs off-site in order to sustain their incomes. The county does suggest on page 4 about setting precedent, and I certainly don't need to remind committee that planning applications are not precedent setting, and that the official plan does actually contemplate undersized or under 40 hectare size lots, of course, subject to 524 subsection 1. And lastly, we would just highlight that the county comment did indicate that no environmental impact study was required and that no aggregate resource report was required as well, based on the lots being over 20 hectares. And lastly, we did have an opportunity to review the ratepayer comment from Messrs. Scriven. And so I would just ask that if those comments are included in the minutes, that pages 7 through 11 be redacted, because they have the landowners' full names, they have their addresses, and they also have their pen signatures. So I would just ask that those 3 pages or 4 pages be redacted if they are to go into the minutes and be available to the public. Thank you for your time. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. And you did, well, at the start of it, you did have a question, and I believe it was just looking for the deferral date or estimated. So would you like to ask that now? And I get Planner Smith to.
Yeah, through the chair, I would just ask for some direction on sort of the reason for the deferral, in meaning, is there follow-up to be completed so that I know, so that I'm not, sitting around? And secondly, if we have the ability to get this on next month's agenda. Because as you can see from the dates, we've already been a year getting to you. And so it would be nice to keep things moving along. Thank you.
And Planner Smith, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but there was a question there, so sorry, I don't know if you were able to respond to that or not, but go ahead, sir.
Begging your indulgence, Mr. Chair, we may possibly hear from anybody else, maybe in the room. Allow me to make those comments after that, possibly.
Absolutely. I
please.
just want to, okay. So we'll respond if we have any other members in attendance to speak. Okay. So Ms. Noble, I'll circle back to you. Is there anybody virtual? Okay. Is there anybody else in attendance here that would like to speak? Go ahead, sir. If you could just take the stand and state your name for the record, and the floor will be yours. And welcome. Push the mic there because we're recording. Thank you.
I should ask permission before I speak, shouldn't I? First of all, my name's Bob Scriven. I am your neighbor. And I want to start off with a few comments. First of all, sincerely appreciate the time and attention that this Committee of Adjustments have made so far. And I also want to be very clear. We are not here for confrontation. We are not here for anything other than to provide information in our position. In terms of first, what Ms. Loft indicated about the redaction, I don't want there to be any inference that I have gone snooping or that anything that is not a part of the public record. That document is on land titles, and anyone with $11 or $13 can obtain it. Second, young, old, it doesn't matter. I started farming by purchasing a 50-acre lot, but it had already been severed long ago. Farm business plan, I haven't seen it, and I would like to see it, because then I can comment if this is deferred, and we are fine with whatever the Committee of Adjustments wishes to do today. You can vote on it, you can defer it, you can get more information. Frankly, more information is best. But I want to see that farm business plan, and I don't know how to go about that. I can ask, but quite frankly, there's nothing proprietary about farming in terms of corn or cattle. Beef Farmers of Ontario have spreadsheets that is public. Grain Farmers of Ontario have break even. And I'd be very interested to see how anyone can make $35,000 net per year on severed parcel 2. Those are my comments with regard to the submissions of Ms. Loft. My submissions are threefold, and then I'll have a conclusion. And I'll also start by saying this. Our family is pro-development. Our family is pro-agriculture. I make my entire living from agriculture, both as a primary producer and representing farmers off the farm in the courtroom. That said, I implore this Committee of Adjustment to make good planning, good development, and good sustainable farming decisions. 3 points. First, the county has revised its position. And in my humble read of it, and I'm not a planner, and I'm sorry, I should do introductions. I'm sorry. My father, Bill, our planner, Scott Patterson, and neighbor Mandy Wright are also in attendance. They may decide to speak or not, but I should do introductions. First, the county has weighed in. And to me, that's determinative. Second, and there's probably my most important point I wish to make, is consistency. In the letter which I had submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, our family passed on this farm. And speaking with the former planner of West Gray in pre-consultation, it was an unequivocal no, can't sever. And we respected that before we outlaid $4 million. We respected that. And we wish to abide by that. And I suspect, and I've learned this in the last few days, Mandy Wright and her family also were interested in the property and inquired about a severance. All we ask for is consistency. Furthermore, the gravity of this decision is great. With the recent amendments to the Ontario Land Tribunal, us neighbors don't have the right of appeal anymore. Interested parties, as Planner Smith indicated, being proponents, county, they get to appeal, we don't. The buck stops with you guys and gals. Second, there is no economic justification. It's impossible. You've seen my numbers, and those numbers, nothing for tax, nothing for buildings, nothing for insurance, nothing for equipment, nothing for buildings, nothing for labor. I said buildings twice, nothing for labor. And there's still $100,000 loss. Trust me, if there's a way of making money in agriculture, I've thought of it. And you just can't. As I referenced in our letter, we had up to 120 cows prior to Mad Cow in 2003. And we eked out an existence. And that was on 500 acres. Just think, you guys and gals are all knowledgeable about farming in Normanby Township, Bentinck, and that sort of stuff. How many 100 cow operations exist per lot? None. It can't be. You can't produce enough feed. The only conclusion to draw without an economic justification is that this will fragment farmland. Third, the precedent that it does set, and it does set a precedent, and in my respectful opinion, will create open season in West Grey. It is not good planning. There's no way around it. The reports offered by Ms. Loft and Beacon Environmental are flawed, and I put that in my letter. Beacon Environmental may be highly respected, but they're not here today. And that's what we're talking about, farmland. It is a repackaging of soil maps, general info regarding farming, but no comparatives. The other important thing that I will say in response to Ms. Loft, with the greatest of respect, aggregate resource area was not mentioned once. And as I stated in my letter that has been circulated to the Committee of Adjustments, we've been thwarted a few times because of that. And it makes sense. If we need aggregate in the future, you can take that subject property off the table, and we will need aggregate in the future. We had a lot that we wanted to subdivide, couldn't, again, with pre-consultation with West Grey Planning, and we were thankful for that. I'd much rather know going into the deal. Similarly, my father-in-law built a property. It would have been much better for a variety of reasons to sever it. Something about a 55-year-old father-in-law wants to own his own property and not be under his son-in-law's thumb. I joke, but we couldn't get a severance. But we got the zoning bylaw amendment for a second dwelling unit, for which we were thankful. We try and work with the rules. So the point with regard to the aggregate resource area is 40 hectares, the 20 hectares under section 5.2.28 is only when there's already a license in play. And I've done some initial research. There's no licenses here. It's 40 hectares or broke. My conclusion is this. The applicants knew what they were getting into. They've started tile draining, and I don't know, but I suspect the Saugeen Valley didn't know that the plan was to have 3 intensive farming operations when they granted that permit. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But by logic, that's what it tells me. They knew what they were getting into. Now they're asking to fragment farmland for their own purposes. Simply put, it's nothing more than an ask for glorified estate lots. 4 points. The lots are 2 of the lots are undersized, and frankly, the one not by much. We're really talking about the middle lot. There's no economic justification. There's no reference or consideration for the aggregate resource area, and the county doesn't support. Whether you defer it or whether you vote on it today, I just ask that this committee reminds itself that it has the ability and to have the confidence to make a common sense, good planning, and consistent decision. Thank you very much. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mike, if you don't mind there. Thank you, Mr. Scriven. Okay, is there anybody else in attendance here that would like to speak to this application before us? Again, we do have a recommendation from our planner to defer it, but as everybody's here, we will certainly entertain. So go ahead, ma'am. You can come forward, please, and just he'll get you set up. Thank you, Mr. Scriven. If you just state your name for the record, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Mandy Wright, and I'm also a neighbor on the east side of the property. I'm asking the council to look into the consistency of it because I too, a year ago, requested to try to sever a piece off of our farm, which is 150 acres, for our son's second dwelling, and was denied it. We worked within the system and we were able to put the second dwelling 100 feet from my back door. My son's okay with it, like any young child would be, but anyhow, my second comment to this whole thing is we had looked into wanting to purchase the 100 acres beside our property to help expand for our young sons as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have 4 million to do it. Knowing that now that this could have happened, at the time when we were told no, that we would not be able to sever it, we didn't go for it. And I think that's a real shame that unfortunately my children would never have the opportunity to own the land beside us. So I'm just asking council to really consider that we need the consistency in the plannings and we need consistency in the rules, and we need to be black and white, not gray. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak to this application? Okay. Welcome. Oh, you got the mic down. That's good. And if you just state your name for the record, and the floor is yours. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, committee, or sorry, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Scott Patterson. I'm with Patterson Planning Consultants. I submitted a very detailed letter, which I suspect the committee has reviewed. At the direction of my client, I do have a presentation, but at the direction of my client, if your intent is to defer this, I won't go through the detailed comments that I have. We'll deal with this through the fullness of time. If there is to be a decision made today, though, I would like to make my presentation.
Okay, Mr. Patterson, I obviously cannot respond to that because I don't know which way. I'm just the chair. I'm not sure which way the direction that the committee will choose to go. So in the best interest, we can, does anybody have any comments or questions first? If I could just, maybe we'll go with that right now. Does anybody have any comments or questions from the committee? And usually we have closed that, but we're going to entertain. Member Eccles, go ahead, and then we'll go from there. Right, sir.
Ms. Loft, you said that you had a comment from March 2014. Tell me that that comment was from March of 2024. Thank you. Oh, I was worried that this has been going on a lot longer than I thought. But yes, I just a bit of a side point there. This isn't quite 300 acres, but they were at one point in time a 300-acre parcel, or 3 100-acre parcels. Am I to surmise that these merged on title, or can I have that question, or is it even relevant?
Well, that's correct. That's why the consents are in front of you, is because legal of the property owners has determined that it is 1 200 and whatever it is acre parcel.
About 275, 270, I guess. So it's another one of these ones that the registry office some 20, 30 years ago at a stroke of a pen.
No, not the registry office. They're nothing to do with registry. It's got everything to do with how the Planning Act is written. Nothing to do with any government official or anything else, putting a number or a letter or a designation after a piece of property. Nothing at all. It's 100% an interpretation of the various sections of the Planning Act by legal counsel for property buyers and property sellers only. No one else.
So these didn't merge on title then?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It said the Planning Act provides certain interpretations of property, especially in rural areas. They're not lots of record like in a plan of subdivision. They had different types of, once they don't get the protection you do in a plan of subdivision. Therefore, under the Planning Act, when you own abutting lands, the legal interpretation is on farms such as these, when they put into single, the same ownership as that they have merged. And that's just a total function of the way the act is written. No government employee, what I guess could have been forestalled this would have been if mom and dad owned parcel A and dad owned parcel B, that when dad died and mom inherited, they probably would have merged. They could have forestalled that if they would have worked with legal counsel to have written things slightly differently, possibly. So again, this is not the working of a person at the registry office or the working of anybody else. This is solely a legal interpretation of the Planning Act.
Okay. If it's an interpretation, we'll vary a little bit on that with the ministry, but that's not for today here to decide.
No, and like I said, the legal counsel for the current property owners has determined that they're in one property. And in order for him or her to write the Planning Act boxes on a land transfer, they would need a consent in order to do so.
Well, I'm not doing any more.
Member Eccles, I know you want to, yes, I would acknowledge that. Okay, so just for the record, here's where we're at. I do acknowledge Mr. Scribner and Mr. Patterson. I respect that you want to hold your presentation. The recommendation from staff is to defer this. If that's not kind of the way that this committee sees it, then we should hear Mr. Patterson's presentation. If we are going the other way, then we can wait to a further date. And I will go to you, Mr. Scrivens, for your comments. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So 2 points. First is Mr. Patterson's report has been circulated. I don't think his submissions, I don't want to speak for you, Mr. Patterson, but I doubt they're very voluminous, that sort of thing. And through you, Mr. Chair, your worship, just a member, but I turned title inside out when we were looking at spending 4 million on this. And I did originally have in my letter, you know, the common thought is original 300 parcel, we're making it back original and that sort of stuff. I could find no evidence of that because I was going to use that angle, quite frankly. And as I also stated in the letter, mom and dad have been farming in the area since 71, and it's always been farmed by the Grind Farm as one parcel. As a point of reference, immediately to the west, there was an original 300-acre parcel from the Becker family that there was a consent, a severance of 300-acre farms. We own a farm. Our family owns a farm behind that. We got notice, no issues. 100 acres. Was it originally 300 acres? Who knows? Who cares? It's a productive farm with building envelopes already. So to answer your question, Member Eccles, I could find no reference, but I did not go back to the 1840s or 1860s. But in terms of the land title, land registry, it's always been one part, maybe 2 parts, but then it was all one family. And I could see nothing where it was originally 300 acres, 100 acres. To support that, we have this 25-acre severance kind of out of the center, which makes me think maybe it was always treated as 300 acres less, 2 severances already. So I just wanted to, because I had looked at that very point. But in terms of Mr. Patterson, I don't know if you want to make a few comments, brief comments. Yeah, of course, through you, Madam, or you, Mr. Chair.
No, absolutely. This is a public meeting and I just respected that you said you would, wait. I know they've been circulated, but absolutely, Ms. Patterson, go ahead. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle back to looking for an answer to Ms. Loft to the question for Planner Smith, and then we'll go to the vote. So go ahead, sir.
So thank you for indulging me. This is a little bit unconventional, so I apologize up front. But again, my name is Scott Patterson. I'm a planning consultant with Patterson Planning Consultants. And I am appearing today on behalf of Robert and William Scriven with regard to these consent applications. As noted, the Scrivens own farmland directly to the north of the subject lands. I had submitted written comments to the township that contain multiple concerns with the proposed consents that are before the committee today. By default, I also provided concerns that are an objection to the proposed rezoning, which is proceeding to a public meeting on October 15th. I trust you have all reviewed my letter, and hopefully the review of the official plan that I completed was comprehensive enough to illustrate that the proposed consents are not appropriate and cannot be supported. The subject lands are designated agricultural and hazard lands in the county official plan. The lands are also subject to an overlay that identifies the properties of high potential for aggregate resources. As part of my review, I noted that there are policies that contemplate a consent for one new lot to be created. It is incumbent on council and staff when framing an official plan or zoning bylaw to express its meaning with certainty. Residents should not be left to guess whether or not something such as these proposed consents could occur. As per my submissions, policy 5.2.3.1 of the official plan contemplates that a consent for one new lot is permitted. The wording in the policy is specific to say one new lot. Before the committee today is two applications to further fragment farmland. Multiple consent applications are not contemplated by the official plan. The policy basis supports one new lot, not multiple new lots. The committee may think that I am grasping at straws when I reference such minute details like this, but I can advise that in my career, it is the little things like this that matter, especially when it comes to planning decisions. I have participated in many tribunal hearings where the specific wording of what we can do make or breaks a proposal. In this instance, the county noted in 2 occasions in their official plan that one new lot can be severed. Policy says one lot, and the applicants are seeking the approval of 2 new lots. That is contrary to what the policy would allow. Regardless of this, the most egregious part of these applications is the failure to recognize a very clear policy that restricts severances on lands that are subject to the aggregate overlay to be less than 40 hectares. Policy 5.2.28 clearly states non-farm size lot creation is not permitted within an area identified as aggregate resource area on Appendix B to this plan. This is not mentioned in the planning materials submitted to support the application, nor is it mentioned in the staff report. And with all due respect to Ms. Loft, as part of her presentation, she did not mention the aggregate overlay either. There is clearly a policy in the official plan that allows or contemplates for reduction in farm parcel size to be below 40 hectares. In those instances, an agricultural report and farm business plan are required. I acknowledge that this is possible, but this only applies for lands that are not subject to the aggregate resource area mapping. So for another property that is within the county or the municipality that is not subject to the aggregate mapping, it may be possible to support a farm parcel size as being proposed. For these particular applications, though, when the lands are subject to the aggregate mapping overlay, there is a clear and direct policy to state that non-farm size lot creation is not permitted. Farm size lots are defined in the official plan as 40 hectares. So a proposal to create a lot that is less than 40 hectares is not permitted at this location. A lot of 29.5 hectares is definitely not permitted. I believe Mr. Scriven has spoken about his previous interactions with the municipality when his family was considering the acquisition of these lands. They were advised that severances were not possible. I understand another neighbor who is here today was advised the same, and this was based on the aggregate overlay policies. The aggregate related policies that suggest a 20 hectare parcel is possible are not applicable to these lands until such time as the property is licensed for sand, gravel, or bedrock excavation. I quoted the specific policy that states this in my letter. There is no mechanism to use the policies that are applicable for aggregate licensed properties until the license itself is issued. The default policies of the agricultural designation and hazard lands designation are what apply to these lands. Again, details matter, and the wording in the official plan is quite clear in this regard. The agricultural policies are what are in place when it comes to these lands. Those policies provide a very specific policy that when an agricultural property is subject to the aggregate mapping overlay, a severance for anything less than 40 hectares is not permitted. There is no wiggle room in that policy. There is no options to submit an agricultural report or farm business plan to avoid that policy. That is the case for the lands that are subject to the aggregate overlay. But for any lands that are subject or is not subject to the aggregate overlay policy, a severance could be considered. With that policy or that overlay applicable to these lands, you do not pass go, you do not start. The application should not have been submitted. I believe my letter outlined various other concerns and multiple issues with what is being proposed here today. I won't go into detail about any of the other concerns as the committee's time is valuable, and I trust you've reviewed the letter. On behalf of Robert and William Scriven, my planning opinion that these applications do not conform to the official plan. The applications couldn't even be considered to meet some general intent of the official plan. That is a test for a minor variance, not a test for a consent application. The Planning Act says the criteria for consent application is that conformity with the official plan is to be achieved. In this instance, the applications do not conform and therefore cannot be supported. I would ask the committee to refuse the applications outright. The county has also taken the position that these applications should be refused. The county is responsible for ensuring conformity to their official plan, so I take their recommendation for refusal to have merit. At a minimum, I was going to suggest that the committee should defer the applications and ask the county to provide comment in response to all of the issues that I raised. But I respectfully do not believe that is necessary. These applications should be refused strictly on the basis that severance for less than 40 hectares is not permitted on these properties. I thank the committee for letting me speak to these applications today. I know that these applications are very important to Robert and William Scriven, and I would be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have of me at this time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, as a rule, our process here is we do have the committee members speak, followed by the public, and then we go to a vote. But I am going to entertain, because in light of all the, one moment. In light of all the conversation is going on around here, I do see Mr. Scriven Senior, you would like to speak. I'm going to have you come to the mic next. Do you have a question? Okay, go ahead. And then what I'm going to do is circle back to the committee. You'll have to state your name once I hand the mic to you. We're going to have a brief questions if you have any or comments. Then I'm going to go to Planner Smith for the response to Ms. Loft. And then from there, we are going to either be looking for a vote to approve, which has been recommended not to approve by our planner. His preference would be to defer, or the third option is to deny the application. So that's where we're going to go so we can keep the meeting going. Go ahead, sir, and state your name for the record, please.
My name, excuse me, my name is Bill Scriven. We farm on the 12th concession, 12th concession of Normanby. We came there in 1971. Between my son and I, we now farm a little over 500 acres. A little bit of our background. We are farmers. The applicants are farmers. Farmers are the same all over the world. You know, they want to farm, and we appreciate that. The fact is, we have a number of farms in our area that I would say in the next 10 years would come up for sale, just because of the age of the applicants. So I just sit here and I worry about a precedent. If my neighbor sells, is it going to be divided into 250s or just? The Planning Act, as I read it as a novice, states fairly clearly what can be done and what can't be done. And I would just ask, I will be very brief. I see this as a precedent to future applications in the municipality of Normanby. And I don't think they're acceptable, because some of the lot sizes are not sustainable for an agricultural operation. It's just that simple. This is the first time in the 53 years that we've lived in Normanby that I have come before council with a private delegation. We accept the rules of the county, the rules of the province. We ask, as Robert stated, we asked for or inquired, let's say we inquired about 3 separate severances, one on a 75-acre piece that my wife and I thought we'd build a smaller house. We were told there was a severance of 25 acres in, I think, the 20s or 30s, so there would be no more severances, period. We had a lot the council would be quite familiar with. We purchased from the municipality of West Grey. We thought we would divide it into 2 lots. We were told unequivocally, no, that's not a possibility. And we accepted that. Robert just said, you know, if that's the law, we just accept that. There's no sense getting worried about it. If there's no severances, there are no severances. And we've accepted those. So I just ask council to consider this very seriously, and the implications that would subside with other properties in the municipality as far as severances go. This is farmland. Not 29 hectare pieces are not farmland. they're additions to farmland. With that, I thank you very much, and I would also thank Deputy Mayor Hutchison and Councilwoman Joyce Noon and Councilors Scott Forrester and Doug Townsend for their patience with us and listening to our concerns and visiting with us. It was much appreciated. Thank you very much.
No, member Eccles still has control here, so from the mayor's seat. So just for a public record, yes, we are council members, but when we sit in the planning act, we sit here as members of the Committee of Adjustment. So we're not really acting as council members. I just want that to be publicly known. We have a different role today that we actually sit under. So that being said, I said I would entertain a brief comment or question period from the committee. This is outside of our normal scope of what our process is, but if somebody has something, well, we have some people in attendance, I will entertain that, but I do want to get over to Planner Smith for the response to Ms. Loft, and I do want to get a vote one way or the other so we can get on to the next application. Is there any comments or questions with everything that's come forward today? Member Hutchison, if you could be brief, sir, and the same when everybody has an opportunity to have something, let's be very brief and specific. Thank you.
I just have a question about the size of the current lot, and maybe I missed it, but are we talking right now with one lot that wants to be severed, they want to sever it into 3 lots, or is it 2 lots that's going to be severed into 3 lots? I wasn't quite sure whether it's been already severed once into 2 lots, this 300 acres. I'm not sure. Can the planner or maybe a proponent? Oh, you're gonna bring it up? Okay.
So on the screen and see what there are.
Mhm.
There are a lot in green, actually.
Like, I know it's difficult. I'm gonna have to actually speak to the mic.
Yeah. Yeah. From the picture, you can see a lot in green as one lot with, it says 39.6 hectares, I believe. Then the lot in blue is the second lot. And then what we would call the retained would be the red lot on the far right-hand side of the screen. So in particular, I think the concerns have been significantly raised over the lot in the middle, the blue lot.
Do you have a follow-up there, Member Hutchison? Your microphone, please.
So right now the parcel is one almost 300 acre lot. Is that correct?
Well, it's probably in some respects significantly below that in the opinion of some because of the
Right.
large chunk taken out of the middle one. And that I think as opposed to the green lot, which does have a chunk taken out of it, and that one doesn't seem to be as controversial, if I can use those words, it is the middle lot. I think that.
So I find it a little bit discerning that somewhere along the line, the Scriven neighbors were told at one time that they couldn't sever it, but according to the official plan, county official plan, sounds like if it was 40 acres or 40 hectares or a 100-acre parcel or more, that it could be severed even though there's aggregate in the area. Is that correct, or am I misinterpreting that? That it possibly could have been severed into 2 parcels.
First of all, I can't tell you what it's been told to the Scrivens in the past.
Right.
My employment here has been short. Number 2 is there is no doubt there is a difference in interpretation of policy, as you can see.
Mhm.
That is why we're having this discussion. On side A, we have a comment or a professional opinion that says, yeah, it meets all the requirements. And a comment from a professional on the other side that says, no, it doesn't. And my job is to take a look at both those and see what merit they have and to hopefully come up with a recommendation that reflects, a more nuanced answer, at which point you would put your own interpretation on top of that. So again, I can't tell you what was told to the Scrivens or to anybody else in that particular, in the neighborhood. I can tell you that the county official plan and its written version of it has been available on the County of Gray official webpage for years since it was passed, and available to all members of the public who have an interest in planning. Don't get me wrong, there's certainly different levels of expertise or knowledge to go into that people can, but to take verbatim at all times the word of that came from a staff person, all the rest of it, without doing your own due diligence to see what is available, I think is still at the applicant's an individual's desire to in that regard. Just because I say it's not possible doesn't mean you can't go and hire a professional planning consultant or somebody else, or make your own argument about why it should be. It's an application form with money.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think just your response there, Planner Smith, basically supports your new recommendation to defer this. I think he's just listening to your response. I will entertain a couple more very brief questions, though. I don't want to get the deep weeds unless we are going to go to another. I see there, I do acknowledge. Is there any questions down here? First time speakers? Once? Anything? Okay. Member Eccles, and then I'm going to get the response from Ms. Loft as she's been patiently waiting.
There was a point taken on the the property, let's call it the blue property now, the middle 29 hectares. And would there be access to that 29 hectares? Ms. Loft, you had said that, yes, you got from the conservation that there probably would be. Knowing that and not knowing it, verbatim, is there enough sightline there? Because there's a hill from both sides to be able to get an entrance at that spot.
Thank you, through the chair. We have not applied for an entrance permit as of yet, but the county comments did not identify any issues, and transportation was part of those comments.
That was clarification I was looking for. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, so I've gone on the left. Anything virtually? Member Townsend, you're good? Okay, so if I may, Planner Smith, if you could, I don't know, it's very difficult. If you could just kind of give a rough estimate on, I know it's going to be based on the information you're going to need to take time to take that up, but you can respond to Ms. Loft, and then we will call the vote.
All right. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, providing an answer to Ms. Loft is difficult. We don't work in a business that has necessarily always 100% certainty within it. However, I do have to be somewhat certain in my recommendation to you in regards to where West Gray should be sitting on these particular applications. And at the moment, we do have a difference of opinion between Ms. Loft and her professional opinion, the planner for and the Scrivens, and also the county, which puts my recommendation in an interesting position in terms of I wouldn't say liability, but of course appeal or whatever it is to a decision that you may make either way on that. So I am the one sitting on the fence, and I have to figure out which side of the fence I'm going to fall on at the moment. And time-wise for that, I am not exactly sure of that. Although I will say it is somewhat at the discretion of Ms. Loft and her clients to push the issue in terms of Planning Act timelines for Committee of Adjustment to make decisions. But I would also counter that with coming up with a decision that may be supportive of her position with her clients in the long term if it was a little longer time taken. So I'm not answering your question directly, but
Actually, you are, because that's the answer I kind of figured you would do. So basically, I'm going to get at it when I have everything before me. So here's what we have. We had the recommendation on the agenda, which has now been verbally suggested that if we change that to a deferral. So in my opinion, well, we do have three options. You can go with to support the recommendation. Again, that would be not in the best interest as Planner Smith, who is our most knowledgeable person on the staff side of things. The other one is to deny the application, or the recommendation from the planner is to simply defer. So we do not have it moved or seconded, so I will be looking for a mover to put a motion forward, basically in one of those three options, unless you've come up with something more creative, but I think that's kind of where we've landed at. And I see Member Noon, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I would ask that it not be deferred. And that based on the information brought forward by another planner, Mr. Patterson, and the County of Gray's last revised submission regarding the aggregate and other substantial comments that does not support this, I would ask that this proposal be refused.
Okay, so Member Noon has presented a motion to deny the application. So I have that moved, and I will be looking for a seconder on that to support that before we open up for conversation. Is there a seconder to support that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I see Member Townsend online will second that. Okay, so we have it moved and seconded, and this is to deny the application that's before us. Now I open up the floor for brief comments or questions on that motion. And again, it will be specific to the motion to deny, not to defer or any other. We're going to talk about that specifically. Comments or questions? Online, do you have anything to say there, Member Townsend?
No, just that I go along with Member Noon that does not fall within the 40 hectare divide lines as it should be.
Well, thank you. Member Hutchison, anything? We're gonna go right to left. Member Eccles, anything, sir? We want to go down and come back, circle back. Okay, Member Noon, you made the motion. I'll go to Member Shea. Go ahead, please. And this is speaking specifically to deny.
This won't have been the first time we have gone contrary to our planner's recommendation, and I think it's a bad precedent. I'm going to ask if I may, ask the planner if you will be seeking further information or further input from Ms. Loft, or if it's just a matter of reviewing the materials, further reviewing the late arriving materials that you have in front of you now.
Thank you, member. I think it's a bit of both. The Gray official plan sets out a number of tests for a smaller than 40 hectare. Okay, there may be some additional clarification could be provided on those tests. Okay, and it is, as has been pointed out, my job here to make a recommendation as to whether something conforms to the county OP. In my interpretation, the county is not, believe it or not, the sole determinant of whether or not something meets the county official plan, even though they may have written it. So going back to your question, there's a couple of things. Yes, I will probably be following up with Ms. Loft to see what information may be added, possibly added to the application to answer questions that have been raised or issues have been raised, and two, for me to review that information for its wholesomeness. The third one, I think, is also a major question regarding the aggregate and the policy interpretation of the county official plan in that regards in terms of my recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing the further information that the planner is able to report at a future meeting. So I'm not going to support this motion.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Member Forster, go ahead, and then I'm going to go back to Member Noon. I'll go to Member Eccles, and then I'm going to call the vote because I think everybody should be in a spot now with the way we're going to go with this. So Member Forster, go ahead, sir.
All right, my question is if this is denied, are the applicants able to reapply and just sever one lot off this whole property?
So there's no double jeopardy in planning, which means you can actually bring back the applications, all of them, Maybe it requires a tweak to a background study. So for example, I move my road from point A to point B to deal with a wetland, for example, right? So you can come back with with basically the same application. Okay, there's no double jeopardy within that. But also, as you pointed out, you could bring forward the single application itself, the one that maybe has less concerns with it at this time. So yes, you're correct.
Just rewording of it. Member Noon and Member Eccles, and then I'm calling the Member Hutchison. I'm going to go to Member Eccles after that. Noon, Hutch, Eccles, and I am calling the vote because we have, I think we've arrived and we've captured almost everything we need to make a decision. Member Noon, go ahead, please.
Thank you. In response to Member Shea's comment about setting a precedence on not respecting what our planner has recommended to us. Earlier, Planner Smith indicated that he feels like he's sitting on the fence, that he doesn't know whether, whether it's a go or whether it should be not supported. So in that, what he had said, I felt that my recommendation to oversee his suggestion to defer was that I felt it was worth denying his what he asked in a deferral, and that we don't move forward with this proposal. So I just wanted to comment on where I felt that the next move for counselors, the committee of the adjustment could go with this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Hutchison, I hope it's very brief, sir, because again, we are not, I've kind of given some latitude today for those virtually attending. We've gone, usually the agenda, we have the committee speak, followed by the public, and then we do get to the vote. We have gone a little bit back into having the committee speak because again, there was quite a bit that was presented today. So I've allowed that latitude, but I would like to bring this part of the meeting to a conclusion and call the vote on the motion that's here. So if we're speaking specifically to the motion, I will listen to your comments or question, go to Member Eccles, and then I am calling the vote. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I too think that I would like to see it deferred just so to get more information. There's been a lot of information come recently in the last week, a lot of information, and I've read it all and sometimes read it twice, but I would just like to hear more. That being said, I do think there might be opportunities to change things a little bit. I don't want to, as people have mentioned, farming is important and it's important to our municipality. And I don't want to discourage young farmers from coming to our municipality. So I would hope that we can work something out, but our planner is going to look at it in more details, and maybe going forward there can be some changes made, but looking forward to hearing more.
So right now we have a motion on the floor and I cannot entertain into public or any other. So it's specifically to deny the application, which is before us. When I call that to vote after Member Eccles has spoke, if that is, if it does not pass, then at that time we would entertain another motion where we've heard some conversation around deferral. So specifically to denying the application as a moved and seconded motion on the floor is what we have to discuss right now. And then if it's denied or it doesn't pass, then we go on to further.
If we support denying this motion, as Planner Smith has said, it doesn't alleviate the applicant from changing their application and coming back again. My only problem with doing that, so, is that I think it was Robert Scriven that said, getting more information is always better. Sometimes more information just makes the whole situation clouded, Mr. Scriven. But that's legalese and that's not my part. That's your purview. But the letter that we got, after these documents were all put together from the county on what their information was or what they want to add to this has given me the, I don't want to deny it. I would rather see it referred, so I can find out from the county planning what their more comments are on this, whether it's around the aggregate that has them concerned or what. That information I don't have. And I think my point is to defer it.
Okay, so
That's all I'm going to vote.
I'm going to go to our clerk to read. We do have it moved and seconded. Could you read the recommendation as the motion on the floor, sir, please?
So the motion on the floor as it stands is just to deny the severance for B21 and B22, 2024. Procedurally, though, just so committee is aware, a motion to defer does take precedence over a main motion. So if a motion to defer was introduced, it would take precedence and would be voted on before this motion. So just so everyone's clear on that.
With a 2/3 support or just outright? We've not had that, and that's what I was saying. That motion was never introduced, but I wanted to make sure we were germane to the actual motion on the floor. So, and I do respect and thank you very much for your input on that. So a motion to defer can supersede the motion on the floor, and we will be calling an immediate vote. I don't believe it's debatable. I think you call the vote on it. Or is that incorrect?
Through the chair, I do believe it is a debatable motion.
It is debatable. I just want clarification. Thank you very much for that clarification. So we do have a moved and seconded to deny. And again, a motion, if somebody wants to entertain moving a motion to defer, we get that moved, we get that seconded, and we'll go from there. So Member Eccles, go ahead, sir.
I would so move that we defer the motion on the floor.
Okay, so I have a new motion from Member Eccles to defer. Is there a seconder? Member Hutchinson. Seconded. Procedurally, Mr. Clerk, do we call this one and then go back to the denied one? Would I just like to know that process, or is that the first motion introduced now? Once we call this vote, it's gone. Is that procedurally the process, sir? Yeah.
So through the chair, if the motion to defer passes, there's no need to go back to the original motion. If the motion to defer fails, then you would go back to the original motion.
And I knew that in the back of my mind. I just wanted that for public knowledge and for the people in the chamber here today, so that we're all very clear on how the process is going through. So we have it moved and seconded. It is, we can discuss it. Is there any comments or question on the motion to defer this item? We've had a wholesome conversation. Member Noon, and this will be germane to the deferral.
This is something new to me. It just feels like it's just something out of the norm, even from council's, the way council sessions are held. So I'm really confused at this point that the original motion still was not able to be voted on.
Well, the clerk could speak to it. So you had a motion for us. A motion to defer would supersede that before you call the vote, and that sets precedence, and then that gets moved, seconded, voted on. If it fails, then we will go back to your motion. If the deferral goes through, that motion that was presented to deny is done, and it can be presented at the next meeting or the next time it's before us. Yes, Member No.
Is the original motion even recognized then in the minutes?
Through the chair, yes, it would be recognized in the minutes. It just wouldn't have a disposition. So every other motion would. This one would have the mover and the seconder. It would not have a resolution number if the motion to defer passed, because it was not disposed of. So the recommendation or the motion on the floor right now to defer is that the matter be deferred and brought back at a time as described by the planner previously, so at the discretion of the planner, pending further information. So that would be in the minutes with a resolution number. The motion to refuse the consent applications as I said, would be there, would show up. It just wouldn't have a resolution number because it wouldn't have been disposed of by committee.
Be recorded in the minutes. Is how it is. Okay. We're all very clear on what we're voting for. There's some more, a recommendation to defer this application. Does anybody need it read back? So this is defer till a further date and the planner can do his work. There is no deadline on for it. And I will call the vote. All those in favor to defer, if you could raise your hand, please. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members in favor. Those opposed? I see 1, 2 opposed. So in favor, 5, 4. This motion has carried and it will be deferred to a further date when the planner can put it together. Planner Smith, what would be the next steps, please?
We will be consulting with Ms. Lofton on the reports. We do have, and I'm not totally aware of what the committee have seen in submissions so far in the sense of the information from the Scrivens and from Patterson Planning Consultant. I'm not too sure what actually showed up in your package. I got it the 27th of September, which is of course after that, but we will improve your package with the current documents. I will be engaging with Ms. Loft on a number of concerns that have been raised. When I am of, I guess, satisfied to a degree, we will provide to the neighboring property owners a, not a formal notice, but that this applications would be coming back to Committee of Adjustment for disposition at that time, so they can prepare themselves and come and make a presentation again or their concerns noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. So that completes item number 6. We'll be going on to item 7. We've been sitting here for an hour and a half. I have 3:36. I am going to call for, well, just under 10 minutes. If we can keep 10 minutes or under, but we'll go, how about 1:45? We can take a recess to then, and then we'll resume with item 7. We're recessed. Please, it is 3:45. Ms. Noble, are we good to go? Just waiting for Member Eccles. It is 3:45. We're going to call the meeting back to order. We had taken a short recess and we're starting back on item number 7 for those attending virtually. So application number A08 2024, B24 2024, and B25 2024 -725 Queen Street. 7.1 is going to be Planner Spencer's report, and if I could just get you to read your Planner Smith, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, well, okay. All right, go ahead, Planner Smith.
Good. I'll ask Ms. Noble to bring up page 74 of the planning report for the applications. Before council committee, we have three applications. One is a minor variance, A08, 2024. And if you go to the next page, please, 75. And 2 consents on the property. And we're going to go back up, if you don't mind, just for a sec, for A08. A08 is a minor variance. It is only for the portion of this property in red. We have previously rezoned this section of the property through previous applications that were in front of West Grey Council. During the rezoning process, I missed a regulation on the property, which was maximum lot depth, a requirement, and the lot would not have met the maximum lot depth. All the remainder of the zoning, which council approved, has gone through and all the rest of it, but I should have made a recommendation that we modify the maximum lot depth, which would reflect the consents and everything else that was going on. We haven't changed anything at all on the property, in the sense of everything that we talked about with West Grey Council in terms of the zoning, the townhouses, the 3 townhouses, the semi-detached, the single, none of that's changed, nothing. What I missed though was the fact that we need to change the maximum lot depth to match up with all those previous approvals. A08, the minor variance for the property, fixes the maximum lot depth in that regard. Go back to the next page, please, for the consents. The second part of the applications were the 2 consents. And what we're seeing here is the red portion, which is the 3-unit townhouse fronting onto Queen, would be a lot. The lot in the back is the semi-detached lot. And then the retained portion is the single family existing on the property. So we will end up with, at this particular round, 3 lots. Again, 3-unit townhouse on the front on Queen, the semi-detached on Enoch, and on the corner, the single detached. Just to make it a little bit more confusing, what we'll see coming forward in the future is a part lot control to split the semi-detached lot into 2 units on 2 lots, and then split the townhouse into the 3 lots. And that's always been the proposal since the very beginning when we mentioned to you at West Grey Council the number of lots we were going to end up with here at the end. This is just a way of moving forward with building permits so we can get things done. And the part lot control will come forward to finish off the lot severances at the end. Anyways, so A08 2024, we reviewed the application against the 4 tests of the minor variance, whether or not it conforms to the official plan, whether or not it's desirable for the orderly development, whether or not it's minor in nature, and whether or not it conforms with the zoning bylaw of West Grey. And we find that the application passes all of the 4 tests for the minor variance to permit a maximum lot depth with a minimum of 24 meters. The 3 consents we reviewed against the provincial policy statement, against the County of Grey official plan, the West Grey official plan, and the zoning bylaw. And in that regard, we do find that the applications do meet the requirements of all the required plans and so on and so forth. We provided recommendations in terms of the easements and so on and so forth on B24 and 2025. We need easements to deal with the future stormwater management that goes between these properties. That was also reviewed during zoning to ensure that water movement between these lots after they're created at the end goes in the right spots and so on and so forth, and ends up in the correct stormwater management plan. The lots do meet all the requirements of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. And therefore, we recommend that number one, that A08-2024 be approved with the conditions attached, and that B2024, B24-2024 and B2025-24 for wall should also be approved in accordance with the conditions provided in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. Okay, we are on to item number 7.2, verbal comments. Again, there's two parts to this part of the meeting. Item 7.2.1 is going to be committee members. Committee members, it's your chance to ask any questions, make any comments or whatever you may on this specific application. And I see Member Hutchinson. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just a point, Chair, from the planner. You're saying maximum depth, but is it not minimum depth to 24 meters? To reduce the lot depth minimum requirement from 30 to 24 meters. You were saying maximum, but I think it's minimum, is it not?
So that would certainly make more sense.
I was a little confused. It says minimum on my diagram too, but I was a little confused.
You're right. It does say minimum lot depth. So,
So the lot's smaller than required,
Right.
right? Is that what it
Right.
means? Yeah.
yes, thank you
Okay.
for
All right.
that.
Thank you.
Planner Smith, you haven't figured it out yet. Member Hutchinson will be watching you.
All of you are watching. I can tell that.
Evidently, we're keeners. Any other comments? Do you have anything on virtually there, Member Townsend? You good? Okay, thank you. Down this way, comments, questions? Member Noon, go ahead, please.
It's just a comment. Again, it's just that these proposals, the off Queen, the threeplex, and off Enoch is a twoplex. If we were going through this, doing the severance first for each one of these dwellings before they're built, it wouldn't fly. But being we're doing the zoning changes first and everything, it's just the way that the process is going. I just don't think it's the right fit.
All right. So if I may, Mr. Chair, we did bring the zoning forward so that you can take a look at the concept of the development, right? What is planned there? So in terms of order of things, fair enough. We could have done consents first, and maybe in some places they do, but I do feel it's more fair to council to bring forward the principle of the development to you first. And if you don't like the development at all, then obviously minor variances or consents wouldn't go forward because they wouldn't match the zoning. So certainly, hear you on that. And as you mentioned, yes, the applications on the zoning were not necessarily all 100% well received by the neighbors. However, council did pass the amendment for it.
Thank you. Any comments, questions specific to this application? Well, I didn't see it. Well, yeah, well, that's better. Go ahead. Yeah, Member Forrester, go ahead.
All right, so since the last meeting, this red lot is actually smaller than what you thought it was at the last meeting.
No, it's actually the same size. It's just I forgot to fix the number. So if you went back to the zoning report, which is referenced in here, you will find that the lot depth there was front and center. It's just that I didn't fix it because it was smaller than the bylaw. I didn't fix it in the bylaw, and I should have fixed it because you did approve exactly this lot or red line for the zoning back then and as proposed. I just didn't put the number into the bylaw, and I should have.
Okay, could you just repeat. So, okay, clarity, the numbers were not in the bylaw.
So you didn't have a number for how far the back of the house was to the lot line before that was correct?
No, this is the depth of the lot. So not the distance from the house to a lot line, but how deep a lot is from the front lot line to the rear lot line is the minimum lot depth requirement of the bylaw. And just for your information, and I think it's in my planning report, is that this is the only part of the bylaw that has any maximum lot, minimum lot depth at all. One single reference in the entire bylaw. Nothing for houses, nothing for anything else, nothing for apartments. Only for townhouses, street townhouses. That's it.
Well, if you're not clear, we will continue to make until you're clear. I want to make sure you're, okay.
Clear as I'm gonna be.
Well, that's like the rest of us. So you're right there. This is good. Any comments or questions before I turn to the public? Welcome aboard. Okay, we are going to go to 7.2, and that's public comments. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Noble to please explain to anybody that's attending virtually how they can participate in this part of the meeting. If you don't have anybody, or if you could advise if you have anybody, if you don't, at that time, I will turn it to anybody that's in attendance today. So Ms. Noble, if you could, please.
As noted at the opening of the meeting, public participation must be done through Zoom. Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways. If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to myself, Ashley Noble, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
And you have nobody on virtual hands, and we jump up down. Okay, good. All right, what we'll do is we'll turn it to anybody that's in attendance here today. Is anybody in attendance would like to speak to this item? Anybody have any comments or questions? Going once, going twice? Do you have a comment, ma'am, on this application?
I already told.
So that, okay, that's fine. Thank you. So do you have a comment for the public if you're fine?
I don't have a problem with Jesse.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. It just we have to speak in.
Neighbor on the one.
Okay, thank you and welcome and thank you for attending today. Comments or questions from yourself? Okay. Seeing none, then I'm going to close this part of the agenda, 7.2.2. That completes that. 7.3 is the decision from the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this recommendation? I think it's pretty straightforward. Excuse me, ma'am. Okay, I'm looking for a mover, please, to move the recommendation. Thank you, Member Hutchinson. You're going to move the recommendation. It's on the agenda, sir. Thank you. I'm looking for a seconder,
Yes,
please.
I move the motion.
Member Shea, you're going to second that, sir? Okay, thank you very much. Comments or questions on the recommendation or the motion that we have on the floor? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see, 6 members in favor. Oh, I apologize. 5 members in favor. Those opposed? See 2 opposed. That motion has carried 5-2. Item number 7.4, Planner Smith. What will be the next step, sir?
The planning department will issue a notice of decision on the application. As mentioned before, only the applicant, which would have probably no reason to, and agencies would be able to appeal the decision. Upon the conclusion of the appeal period, the applicant come forward, satisfy the conditions of consent as established by the Committee of Adjustment, satisfy conditions of the minor variances as established, and then move forward with the building department on building permit applications.
Planner Smith. That takes us to item number 8. This is the last application before us on today's agenda. It's application number A09-2024 and B 2324-524. 267. Concession 12. 6.1 will be, or 8.1 would be Planner Smith's. My eyes are starting to go. The Planner Smith's report. If you can please read your read your presentation, Planner Smith, on A09-2024 and B23-2024. Planner Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask you to go to page 87 of 93. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, we have 2 applications. One is a minor variance, and the second one is an associated consent. Schedule before you for A09-2024 would recognize the minor variance for a lot area minimum of 19 hectares for the minor variance. And if I go to the next page, please. Yep. And the second one is the schedule for B 2023-2024 was a lot to be severed of 19 hectares. So the purpose of the application is to sever approximately 19.4 hectares and retain a 20-hectare lot with existing buildings. We're on frontage both onto Bells Lake Road and onto concession 12. The new farm lot would access Bells Lake Road, and the existing farm will continue on concession 12. The lot is designated rural land use and hazard in the County of Gray official plan, which allows us to take a look at the 50-acre farm severances, or approximately 50 acres, 19.4 is where we're at. And there is significant woodlands and some other constraints on the property and an aggregate resource area on the property. All that was reviewed by the county, and there's no EIS requirements or issues with the aggregate resource area for the lot size. As a severed lot will be less than the 20 hectares required by the A2 zone in the West Gray zoning bylaw, the minor variance is required because it's 19.4. I don't go 19.4. We went a little touch smaller to the 19, which is why the numbers don't match up exactly. But 19.4 was still less than 20, so we had to do the minor variance. We don't have that kind of leeway. The bylaw is a bylaw as opposed to a county official plan in that regard. So we reviewed the minor variance application against the 4 tests of minor variance as required by the Planning Act, and found that the minor variance does meet all 4 tests of the Planning Act. And second of all, we did review the consent application regarding the provincial policy statement, the County of Gray official plan consent policies, the West Gray zoning bylaw. We found that the application does meet the requirements of those various plans. I would like to point out just one thing. As I mentioned, the property, and we have multiple properties, and not just in West Gray, but across the county that have significant woodlands on it as a quote unquote constraint. That mapping has been in the county official plan, of course, for a number of years. And in the last little while, the county has been requesting through the planning ecologist replacement of trees that are being cut down to build a house. As a planner, I do find it a big stream, and I don't think we're finished discussing that with the county in that regard. But in this particular case, the county has requested a tree compensation to be paid in cash or trees of 2 trees for every one cut down on a piece of private property in order for somebody to build their house. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be going with this with the county. This is the first time we've looked at this particular type of policy of a replacement or whatever. But it's certainly still one I think that bears a discussion in terms of single applicants paying for trees that are actually to the benefit of all of us being coming out of the individual's pocket. I think if the county wished to have a policy or a fund that paid for trees like this that are coming to public benefit, because that's really what it is, then the county should be putting some money towards this as opposed to requiring the applicant to pay at times $6,000 or $7,000 in trees in order to build their house. Anyways, that's my comment on tree compensation as being required at the moment. But as I mentioned, we do recommend that the application A09-2024, the minor variance, be approved in accordance with the conditions as provided to the committee, and that consent application B 2023-2024 also be approved and considering the conditions as recommended to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. Yeah, you see a rather aggressive climate action plan that's coming forward. So anyways, we will stay in scope of today's agenda, which takes us to 8.2 verbal comments, 8.2.1 committee comments. So this is your opportunity to ask any questions, make any statements on this specific application before I turn it to the public. So committee members, any comments or questions on this application? And Member Nguyen, I acknowledge your hand. Go ahead, please.
So just for clarification, this is about a 50-acre parcel. So the retained portion would be 20 hectares. And the severed is 19. And the A2, is there any agriculture with that, or is it all residential? I should look up my zoning descriptions before I ask these questions, but just for clarification, I just don't want to conflict this one with what happened earlier with that almost 300-acre parcel. So I just want some clarification on those numbers.
Right. So the parcel to begin with is roughly 100 acres. Yeah, mine is a tiny little section on Bells Lake Road, I believe. Okay. So, which allows it to be split into the 50s. So 19.4, right, is the 50s. And the reason we're able to do that is because it's designated rural, non-prime in the county official plan. And zone A2, quote unquote, are rural, non-prime in the West Gray zoning bylaw. The A2 zone is a standard agricultural zone to begin with. It's almost identical to the A1 with the exception that the lot area in an A2 is 20 hectares and the lot area in an A1, which reflects our prime, is 40 hectares. Other than that, you can still do a fair job of living or farming off of a rural parcel. And so there's no difference in the rest of the requirements other than lot size.
Okay. Oh. Nope. Any comments, questions from committee members? Okay, so that will close that part of the meeting. We will go to public comments, 8.2.2. First off, we're going to ask Ms. Noble to explain to anybody that could be virtually attending how they can participate. And if, once you've done that, if you could let us know if anybody is sent a message in or standing by virtually to speak before we go check the public. Go ahead, please.
If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking into the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to myself, Ashley Noble, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Ms. Noble? No one? Okay, thank you. Wasn't sure what that was. That got the code though. Okay, is there anybody in attendance within the public forum here that would like to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none, that will conclude that part of the agenda. Takes us to 8.3, decision by the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Member Eccles, go ahead, sir.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Okay, Member Eccles is moved as recommended. Member Townsend on virtually. I see you are going to second that.
I am going to second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Townsend. Okay, comments or questions on the recommendation before us? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can just raise your hand, please. All members are in favor. There's none opposed. That motion has carried. Under 8.4, Planner Smith, what will be the next steps, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The planning department will issue a notice of decision of both the minor variance and the consent. Agencies and prescribing bodies can decide whether or not to appeal the decision or not. If there are no appeals, the applicant then can move forward to satisfy the conditions of the minor variance and the consent, and then begin the process of providing all the legal stuff for severance at the end of the day.
Thank you, Planner Smith. All right, item number 9. That actually concludes all of the applications on today's agenda. So item number 9 is next meeting. I have that shown as November the 5th, 2024, 2 p.m. Details should be posted there in advance. And item number 10 is adjournment, and I will declare that all business on today's agenda is now complete. And we do stand adjourned at 4:09. And thank you very much for everyone for all the work that was done today on our agenda. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.